All right, so I wanted to make a video to discuss with you that to address the claim by some people that artificial intelligence will lead to the requirement or the need of universal basic income. And as these technologies progress in the future, then these calls will become increasingly more and more shrill. You can be assured of that. But what I'm saying is just that with the issue of artificial intelligence, it's doing jobs, it's handling things like research, it's doing a pretty good job of composition. You can't just turn it loose with something totally. If you have a specific goal in mind, you're going to have to manage it, but it does a really good job. Research obviously is doing a really good job. And so for things like medical tasks and things like this, it's probably going to take, over some of these jobs, any kind of thing that requires, any kind of task that requires, research or, perhaps in the near future, composition will probably take over some of these types of, some of these jobs. And so what I'm saying is just that at this stage, it's pretty simple to assess what the repercussions of this are going to be. And what it's going to be is it's going to be, certain type of businesses are going to lay off some of their employees. And I already discussed this in another one of my videos, but it was pretty deep into it. So I want to make another video just going over this. But, they're going to end up laying off some of their employees. As an end result, they're going to have more capital, and then their money is going to be kind of left over for not things that they need, but things probably that they want. At least initially, probably eventually what it'll do is cause competition to come in, which will then drive the price down. And so the end result will be more money left in the economy for other things anyways. But what I believe is that, just initially it's easy to see what's going to happen is, those businesses will have more money, more capital, and then more profit. And then they're going to take that money to market. They're going to buy things that they want. Not things that they need, but things that they want. And then so it's going to create business opportunities in those specific categories. So probably like the initial impact will be like the restaurant business will see an uptick, probably have more restaurants, more people, fewer people able to go to work doing these specific tasks, but there's more money in those specific sectors. And so people are going to say, oh, well, I'm, not just every single person who doesn't go into business doing this is going to end up doing that, but as a whole, money will be allocated to those businesses, and then people will end up finding their way into those business ventures, and then we'll have businesses that have more money on hand, and then they're gonna be making more money, and then we'll have more options when we go to eat, or we'll have more options when we go to buy a car, or some people will take that money and they'll go and they'll buy them an extra car, or or however it works out. But it's just going to be more opportunities in the housing market. I heard a statistic one time that said that the housing market has created more millionaires than any other industry. You know what I mean? And so it's not just to say where specifically it's going to wind up, but most likely I would say initially it's probably going to wind up in areas that not things that people need, but things that people want. Entertainment, probably more people going to the movies. The entertainment industry will see a boost. Different things like that. And the way that it works out over time, like I said, it'll just end up working its way back into the economy. But it's what I foresee when I think about this. What's going to end up happening down the road is that you're going to see, as robots begin to actually take over, and the dexterity of a robot is equivalent to that of a human being. And it's got artificial intelligence built in, whether it's, externally connected to something like, ChatGPT or Grok or whatever it is, an AI system, or if it's got an AI system built into it. The dexterity of these robots has become pretty impressive. And I anticipate at some point in the, I wouldn't say not too distant future possibly, then a lot of these jobs are going to be taken over by robots. And it's going to get to the point where the technology is going to get cheaper and cheaper. And then people are going to say, well, I paid this guy $100,000 a year. I can have a robot come in and do the same job. The robot only costs $100,000, And then the end result of that is going to be that business owner has more profit, and then he's now, that's recirculating back into the economy. And what I anticipate will end up being the end result is that eventually, possibly, it's possible that robots just basically take over every kind of job you can even imagine. You know what I mean? Like desk tasks, answering phones, doing compositions, doing business, even doing a business meeting, like going in and having like a roundtable discussion and, forming a business plan. I mean, these things are really smart. They could actually probably do that right now. Just having two artificial intelligence talk to each other is already impressive. And mind-blowing, really. But, having this kind of thing go on all the time where people are they go to their business and they interact with robots and there actually is no human actually even there. What I think is going to end up happening personally at that point is that people are going to be making so much money because of that. It's just going to end up being a lot of small business owners that are they're kind of like lightly staffed with a few robots. And so whenever you go to market and you're like, because a robot can't start a business, you know what I mean? But whenever you go to market, or whenever you go, not to market, whenever you go to the market and you say, I want to get like a printer or something like that. Right now there's maybe 20 printing companies in your city or whatever. In the future, I foresee it being a situation where there's 200, and it's all just business owners. They're not getting a tremendous amount of business, you know what I mean? But the end result is that they're not having to really pay any help. So their profit margins are so much higher that they're actually not even doing that much. You know what I mean? Like they're all having like they own a house, they own their own house, they own their own car. Probably a situation kind of similar to where I'm at right now. There's a lot more options, a lot more restaurants, industries where, it's things that people want more than things that people need. And what I anticipate it being is a situation where people are essentially doing, just a relatively minimal amount of work for a lot more money. And there are financial opportunities in upward mobility. If you own a bigger business, you're gonna make a lot more money, but you're just gonna have a lot more competition. It's essentially gonna be the same thing as what we have right now, but the difference is just gonna be the number of options that you have for everything. And I think it'll be great. Honestly, I think it'll be really excellent. I think it'll be really awesome because people are basically going to be halfway retired by the time they're 30 years old, and they're just going to be having like wealth. You know what I mean? I would say probably somewhere in the range of what we would see as maybe $200,000 to $250,000 instead of $60,000. I think the amount of wealth that'll generate because of force multiplication, like the Industrial Revolution created so much wealth because of force multiplication. An engine or something that can do the work of a human, it creates so much wealth for everybody else, and it can sustain such a larger population, and so much more food can be created by machines and doing all this stuff. And so I think that the end result will be that people would be making on average a hell of a lot more money, doing a hell of a lot less work, and because the real heavy lifting is being done by machines. You know what I mean? Like, does that make sense? You know what I'm saying? Like, the wealth is there. You know what I mean? The wealth is there because the machines are doing all the work. You know what I mean? So what I anticipate being is a situation where it's just going to work out where it'll just be a ton of small businesses. Like this would be like a small business world. You know what I mean? And I even kind of anticipate it being a situation where by the time you're 5 or 6 years old, your parents are already talking to you like, what kind of small business are you going to start up? They're not saying what kind of college you're going to go to. They're saying what kind of small business are you going to start? Or what kind of business are you going to own? So, and there probably will be people go to college, lawyers and, certain types of doctors and, surgery, psychiatry therapists, even probably a lot of things that has to do with cars and manufacturing, working on engines. I mean, all those tiny little parts. I just don't know if you can really. It'll probably be a while before you can trust a robot to get in there and handle that kind of stuff. But yeah, I foresee it being a world, and this is what's scary is when you have people out there that say things like they're just chomping at the bit. And really they are. There's so many people out there that are really Fabian communists that they're just there. They look like the genuine article. You think they're good, but really they're just sitting there waiting for anything to say, oh yeah, you need a universal basic income. Like it's time, like obviously now. You know what I mean? And they take something like this that's hard for the public to grasp. And then they say the answer is communism. And we've never, it really bothers me a lot. And because a lot of people will buy into this. And the number of people that will buy into that is what scares me. And that's why they do it. They're strategic about this kind of thing. They're looking for reasons to say this. And Joe Rogan, this isn't his first time saying universal basic income or something like this. I mean, the dude pulls this shit all the time. I think he tried to get Elon Musk to support. I mean, I've heard him say this trash so many fucking times. I'm really disgusted by that kind of thing. But what I'm saying is just that, it's just people like that. He has such a platform, and then he goes with communism and universal basic income. People like that are just lying in wait. I hope you understand that. They're lying in wait for anything at all. To say this is the reason that the time has come. Communism has a rational excuse for its implementation now. This thing is happening. Anything, they'll say it over anything, And it's just because really that's all they want anyways. I mean, they'll say, they'll go back and forth, and then they'll come back and they'll say, it'll just hit you out of nowhere. Oh, communism is great, And then it's like they just earning their credibility from being honest and signing on to things that make sense. And then they'll inject that shit into you, Communism is great, man. It'll work today. It'll work now, Because AI is going to cost you your job. You know what I mean? AI is going to cost you your job. So we need communism, And I heard Alex Jones talk about this before. Oh yeah, because the machines are going to be doing everything, then who's going to have a job? You know, so, but people may be legitimately afraid of this kind of thing. It's been like this for a long time. Even back as far as the Industrial Revolution, people were afraid that, you know, machines, you know, were going to take the job of the guy digging holes and stuff. You know, it's just, that's just the way they think. But it's just not like that. It really isn't like that. You know, and the Industrial Revolution made us so wealthy. You know, it's almost just, to me, what bothers me is kind of like, you saw what happened in the Industrial Revolution. You saw what happened in communism, people starving to death, cannibalism, people eating each other. And you can't just say, it's more likely that this is going to be good than a reason to do communism. You can't just look at that and say that. Even without seriously breaking it down, dissecting it, and saying, how does this actually affect us? You know what I mean? You can't just say that. You can't just say, well, yeah, most likely that's the case. You know? It makes me deeply suspicious of people like this. You know what I mean? It's like goddamn, you like that's the worst thing you could promote. You know what I mean? Communism. You know what I mean? It's like just, oh, I just can't stand them. I can't stand people like that. You know what I mean? People that sit around just waiting for shit like this. You know what I mean? Waiting for a reason to try to shove communism down our fucking throats. You know, trying to get us to say, yeah, let a bunch of people pay for a bunch of other people sit on their ass. You know what I mean? It's like, holy shit, man! Like, just that's so great of a world. You know, people sitting around with no purpose. You know what I mean? Anyways, I get it. Some people may believe it. That's great. That's necessary. But ultimately, that's never proven to even work. And it's just not a viable option. You know? It's never worked. Economically, it's suicide. And so we just could never do it. I mean, you would be more likely having people that have more money and would just give money to charities that would help you make it. You know what I mean? In a robust economy that's capitalist, than you would, just socialize everything and then have the fucking economy even exist afterwards. These people would be starving to death, okay? And we would have nothing to even give them because we would all be dying and eating each other. That bothers me, man. It's not even personal. I mean, the dude might be ignorant, but all I'm saying is just, holy shit, you're dangerous. You know what I mean?